Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And quite frankly, there weren't as many breaches this week, but unfortunately, what we fortunately have in low quantity, we unfortunately make up in quality. And let's get going because there's quite a lot. And as always, I will thank the following people because you sent me in stuff. I really appreciate it. Again, short week. Jay Dance, Chris Fallon, Barrett Peterson, guys. Thank you very much. And let's start with Clarion Housing in the United Kingdom. A cyber incident has caused massive disruption for thousands of former council house tenants in Finland trying to contact their landlord, Clarion Housing. They are asking their residents nationwide, not just in Finland, although obviously this is where the news is coming from, and Finland has 4,000 of their tenants, to contact them only if they have an emergency repair. That would probably be a landlord's dream anyway. Quote, some of our emails, IT systems, and phone lines are not working as normal. I don't have much more on that, but heads up, if your landlord is Clarion Housing and you're in the UK, only call them as a result of an emergency. That is their wish. Moving on. Let's talk about IT services giant SHI International. They have 5,000 employees. Now, they are struggling to fully restore systems and operations after being hit with a cyber attack over the 4th of July weekend. This incident, which SHI describes as a, quote, coordinated and professional malware attack, forced the company to shut down many of its systems, some of which are still online as of a couple of days ago. So hopefully SHI is back online. But if you use them for any of your IT service needs, you might want to check in. Hopefully your information was not impacted. Moving on. Let's talk about Aon, and basically this is an update for their data breach from earlier this year. They recently, if you recall, disclosed that 145,889 of basically its North American customers had their sensitive data basically exposed in this data breach. Now, if you didn't know, they basically got hit between December 29th of 2020 through February 26th of this year. They disclosed a breach in the SEC with the SEC filing in February, and then further details were disclosed 3 months later in late May on the 26th. In a later date, in a letter, dated May 27th, Aon told individuals that affected personally identifiable information now includes driver's license numbers, social security numbers, and, quote, in a small number of cases, benefits enrollment information. So heads up to you, Aon employees, you probably know this already, but your PII was hit and exposed, all 145,889 of you, are also customers apparently as well. So make sure you're checking in, customers and employees of Aon, if this is news to you. Moving on, we have to talk about sensitive airport data, although they are not saying which airport sensitive data we are talking about, and hopefully it's a small one, but I don't think it is because here's what's going on. A misconfigured Amazon S3 bucket, because half the time that's what it is, resulted in 3 terabytes of airport data, or more than 1.5 million files, being publicly accessible, open, and without authentication to gain access to it. Now, the exposed information uncovered by Sky High Security, seems appropriate, they would find an airport breach, includes employee personal identification number, information, PII, and other sensitive company data affecting at least 4 airports in Colombia and Peru. So not naming the airports, but looks like it's going to be South America. Now, the PII ranges from photos of airline employees to national ID cards, which obviously could be a serious threat if leveraged by terrorist groups or criminal organizations. It also has information about planes, fuel lines, GPS map coordinates, and more. Now they've secured the S3 bucket, and it contained information dating back to 2018, and according to the report, it also noted that Android mobile apps were also contained within this bucket, which security personnel were using to basically help with incident reporting and data handling. Obviously, that's a huge problem because if you can manipulate the code in the app and push an update, you might be able to start scraping or getting more information or infecting mobile Android devices being used at airports. That is a huge problem. Airport security is obviously sacrosanct, and the last thing we want are airplanes once again weaponized. We never want to go through a 911 or 911 anywhere on the planet. So obviously a huge problem. Moving on, let's talk about French telecom company La Poste Mobile, and that is my horrible French accent. French mobile phone network is basically still struggling to recover from a ransomware attack that crippled its administrative and management services. Company's website has been down, with a lengthy message to customers explaining that the ransomware attack began on the 4th of July. While service has not been affected, the company has noted that customer data may have been accessed, and the company urged customers to be wary of phishing messages or attempts at identity theft. So basically, lock it down and look. So if you're using La Poste Mobile in France for all of your telecom needs or mobile needs, heads up to you. You could be on the receiving end of phishing attacks or worse. Moving on, let's talk about Professional Finance Company, or PFC USA. On July 1st, PFC USA announced that it had started notifying impacted individuals that their personal and health information might have been compromised during a February 2022 ransomware attack. Because the attackers were able to access and disable some of the company's computers, personal information stored on those systems may have been compromised, and PFC notified the potentially impacted healthcare providers on May 5th. From what I understand, they are debt collectors for the healthcare industry. Now, the information that might have been accessed by the attackers includes names, addresses, birth dates, accounts receivable balance, and payment information, social security numbers, health insurance, and medical treatment information. They did not say how many were impacted. So if you are dealing with apparently the financial services of Professional Service Company, or PFC USA, you might want to check in. And there you go. Moving on. Let's talk about LendingTree. Obviously, this is a lending platform. I remember hearing their commercials before, but I've never used them. On June 29th, and I'm glad I did for the record, because on June 29th, 2022, LendingTree reported a data breach to the Montana Attorney General's office. According to the data breach notice, between mid-February of this year through sometime in June 2022, quote, a code vulnerability likely resulted in the unauthorized disclosure of some sensitive personal information. We're talking full names, dates of birth, street address, and social security number. So if you have used LendingTree to shop for lenders or all your lending needs, heads up to you. You may be caught up in a data breach and maybe entitled to compensation. We'll see. Moving on, let's talk about MangaToon. This is actually an app for reading manga, which is Japanese comics. They suffered a data breach that exposed information belonging to 23 million user accounts after an attacker stole it from an unsecured Elasticsearch database. Quote, MangaToon has 23 million accounts breached in May. The breach exposed names, email addresses, gender, social media account identities, auth tokens from social logins, that's great, and MD5 password hashes. MD5 hashes are super weak, very easy to crack. That information is coming from Have I Been Pwned, meaning odds are MangaToon has not declared. Now, I'm guessing because it's Japanese comics, they might be out of Japan, so I may be wrong in the sense that they may have reported this to Japan's authorities, but again, I don't speak Japanese, although I did take it in college, should have kept it up. MangaToon users, though, heads up, you're probably in Have I Been Pwned, and you can go safely check there. And finally, like I said, short week. We have two finalies for you. I want to give you a quick update on China, because if you recall, I talked about this last week. More than 1 billion of their citizens got breached. Well, Chinese government has responded. China's cabinet stressed the need to bolster information security following a huge leak, obviously, and this is basically looking like the largest cyber attack in the country's history in terms of leaked data. The State Council meeting led by Premier Li Keqiang emphasized the need to, quote, improve security management provisions, raise protection abilities, protect personal information, privacy, and commercial confidentiality in accordance with the law. Now, that is according to the Xinhua news agency, one of the official news agencies in China. These measures will allow, or would allow, public and businesses to, quote, operate with a peace of mind, end quote, according to the Xinhua report. Xinhua, though, didn't actually reference the data breach. Other state media agencies have also been silent on this incident. So there you go. The Chinese government keeping their people in the dark since, I don't know, the revolution. This is obviously a huge problem. If your data is out there, it really behooves everybody to be as transparent as possible so that you can take proper protective steps. I don't care where you're a citizen of. If my data is breached, I would absolutely want to know that. And speaking of my own data breached, we have to talk about Marriott. Outstanding, especially as somebody who travels quite a lot. They seriously need to get their stuff together. Let's put it that way, just cleaning it up for the kids, because Marriott has suffered at least its 7th data breach since 2010, and this is nuts, especially as somebody who travels and stays at Marriott's, because that's where like half the conferences I'm booked at usually are. Now, Marriott confirmed it was the target of yet another data breach after attackers recently breached the company's systems. The company said that the attackers used social engineering techniques to gain access to an employee's computer, meaning they phished somebody, probably got through the spam filter if they even have one, because quite frankly, at this point, I probably doubt it, and somebody clicked on a link because an employee probably wasn't trained. I'm just guessing, that's my speculation, but come on, Marriott. Now, after obtaining around 20 gigabytes of data, the person or group behind the attack tried to extort Marriott. Marriott refused to pay. Now, the attackers had access to Marriott's network for less than a day. That's according to Marriott. The company told Cyberscoop it was already looking into the breach before it received the extortion attempt. The incident is said to have taken place around a month ago, and obviously now it's just coming to light. Marriott has informed law enforcement and is assisting with the investigation. It will also notify regulators and between 300 to 400 individuals, most of whom are former employees, meaning it looks like they might have gotten into some kind of HR database, something along those lines, possibly not customer database this time, so yay. There we are. Quote, their information was in archived files that were not detected by the scanning tool we use as part of our proactive security efforts to identify and remove sensitive data from devices. That's according to a Marriott spokesperson talking to Engadget. My guess, they're using Norton. Cybersecurity professionals, you understand that joke. Now, according to databreaches.com, which first reported this attack, the attackers gained access to a server at BWI Airport Marriott in Maryland, which I swear to God, I think I just stayed at like a month ago. They provided the publication with screenshots. Oh no, that was a Hilton, I think. Anyway, they provided the publication with screenshots that appear to show reservation documents for flight crews, along with corporate credit card numbers for airline travel agencies and all of those kinds of things. Now, Marriott said most of the information that the attackers accessed was, quote, non-sensitive internal business files regarding the operation of the property. This is at least, as I mentioned, the 7th security incident involving Marriott since 2010. They're averaging, about 1.5 breaches or less per one breach per 1.5 years, roughly. I can't even math today. Now, if you recall, probably the most notable case is in November of 2018, same year as, I believe, Equifax, or maybe the year after. The company said that the attackers gained access to the reservation database of its Starwood subsidiary and obtained the personal details of as many as 383 million guests, although some were believed to be duplicates. I would probably be one of those 383 million guests. Again, I travel a lot. Now, the data included 5.3 million unencrypted passport numbers, and the UK Information's Commissioner's Office fined Marriott about $21.9 million US, or 18.4 million pounds in UK speak. So that's obviously a huge problem. Marriott really needs to step this up. I mean, obviously, I understand when you're a large business, you have a huge surface area for attack, especially those employees, but you've got to be training them constantly. I've been in the room with the person that accidentally clicked the link or interacted with the attackers thinking they were talking to somebody legitimate and lost their company a whole bunch of money. That is always a horrible day for everybody, including myself. That is a huge problem. Marriott, you got to get it together. But those were your breaches of the week. Again, we didn't have quantity, but we unfortunately had quality. Hopefully you weren't affected, and if you're in basically if you use Marriott, you're affected. Just we'll put it there. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everyone.